Welcome to the Sean Chandler Talks About Movie Delays podcast, where I talk about the latest 2020 movie delays every single week. I don't want to, but that's what happens every week, so that has to be the subject we discuss each week. Joining me, as always, to talk about the latest movie delays is Griffin Schiller. Griffin, how you doing?
Didn't we do this show like last week or something? I feel like there's no difference in today's show versus last week's show. So you know what, guys, you can just tune out right now. It's fine. We're just going to talk about the same stuff, have the same conversations, and get mad about the same things. So
yeah, indeed. When we started this podcast, the hope was to talk about all the movies that are coming out and having interesting insight about the box office related to them, the backstories behind them, potentially having interviews and junkets and stuff like that. Then the year 2020 happened, and it turned into every single week we talk about how no movies are coming out in the year 2020. What a year to kick off the podcast.
Yeah.
What a year.
Truly no better year. And, you know, no matter how much time we have on our hands, it doesn't matter. It's just the same stuff. So.
Yeah, 7 months now of every single week movies getting delayed. But today we're Twinkies. For those listening to the audio version, we're both wearing tank tops. We're both just in the mood to be. I don't even know what the statement would be about why we're dressed like this. I came straight from the gym, so I'm amped up.
And I'm going to go work out immediately after this podcast.
There you go. There we go.
There you go.
Gym-themed podcast, but only in our apparel, not in what we'll be actually discussing. So as we go into today's show, we'll kick things off a little bit talking about the death of Eddie Van Halen. Normally talk about movies, TV, stuff like that, but in the world of music, that is a colossal loss that we just had. Of course, we got to talk about movie delays, and because there were so many. When there's just one or two, and like, what's the point of talking about it? I have the same take every single week, but this time it is the consequence of Regal Cinema shutting down. So we'll talk about that. We're a week late on this, but that whole Electro coming back to the MCU thing dropped. So it's like, we should probably talk about that at least a little bit, even though it just feels like that was a month ago. It was 1 week ago. Yesterday we got the cast for the new Resident Evil reboot. And then we got some pictures from The Witcher Season 2, so I thought might as well talk about that just a little bit. If you're listening to the audio version of this, be sure to leave a rating, a review. It does help the podcast rank a little bit better so new people can discover it and join in on the conversation. If you are joining in live, be sure to tell us what you're thinking about each of the subjects that we're discussing down below in the comment section. From time to time, we will pull some of your comments up and have them be a part of what we are talking about. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started with kind of our first subject of the day. And that is that yesterday we learned that Eddie Van Halen, the guitarist from the band Van Halen, who kind of revolutionized rock and roll guitar, passed away after a long battle with cancer. So on this channel, obviously, we talk about movies, but during the zeros, that first decade of adulthood for me, I was much more into music than I was, not that I wasn't into movies, but I was in a bunch of bands. Even if you look right over there at my wall, you can see maybe you can see it. There you go. If you go like that, you can see my Les Paul hanging there. So music has been a huge part of my life, and the way that I learned to play guitar is that I just bought a bunch of guitar magazines in the late 90s, early zeros, and I would just learn all the riffs from all the different bands. And of course, Eddie Van Halen being one of the definitive guitarists of the last 50 years, they always had tabs and stuff. So I learned to play guitar trying to play Eddie Van Halen riffs like so many other guitarists from the last 45 years. And, you know, I was never really a fan of the Sammy Hagar era, but all the David Lee Roth stuff, and then even Van Halen 3 with Gary Cherone, which everyone else hates, that came out when I was in high school, so I was actually kind of fond of it, and I liked the band Extreme. He used to be the lead singer for the band Extreme, so I even liked their crappy album, Van Halen 3 with the random guy that showed up for just one album. So this was actually a pretty big loss for me. This hit me really hard when I opened it up and I saw it on Facebook, and I had to like double check. Is this real? Is this one of those fake things? This can't be real. And then you look into it.
65 too.
Yeah, 65.
It's like so young. Mm-hmm. Although to be honest, like I feel like he's the kind of guy where it was like, you know, just given the kind of like
rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, it's like one of those that's like, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, but like it is really depressing for sure. I mean, just like an absolute icon and like pioneer in like rock and roll. Like you don't have musicians like him anymore.
Right.
You really don't. And that's something I miss, like the true rock stars,
Right. And there was that was the era that they rose to prominence, was the era of the rock star, and then it was kind of that he invented this style of playing that dominated rock music of the 80s with the tapping guitar solo, shredding, even the guitar tone, everything about it. He invented something that was incredibly influential. And then even right as you have an era where you start having press to where and guitar shops and all this stuff to where people are going and playing riffs, he was just the dominant influence of so much of that for about 20 years, and then of course still influential to this day of anybody that's into rock guitar.
Yeah.
But like 65, it's kind of right in that window of old but not old.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, for rock stars that have from the 80s, they lived wild. They lived wild.
Yeah.
He didn't have the reputation of Ozzy Osbourne. He didn't snort lines of ants and then pee on the Alamo and get banned from the city of San Antonio.
And somehow he's still alive.
He's still alive, but pretty wild lifestyle nonetheless.
For sure.
And so I think it's that we hadn't really heard anything about him being sick. I don't know if that was news. I don't know if it was common knowledge that he had cancer, but it wasn't something that dominated the news cycle or anything like that.
Right.
And then it just kind of happened. You just kind of open your phone in the year 2020, and we're used to bad news, but normally it also ties back to the beer bug out there that and so then when you see it as cancer, and it's wow. And for me, this one hit more than even Kobe, because I'm more of a musician,
right?
And so then
sure.
And so this was one that was like, wow, that's obviously more tragic for someone in their 40s versus someone in their 60s, but as personal connection to it hit pretty hard for me.
Yeah.
And do you have any favorite Van Halen songs? Is that something you can pull up?
I'm trying to think off of the top of my head. I mean, I just know. Like, I know my dad, like, always in the car, my dad would always have, like, the stations on that would play, like, classic rock and stuff like that. And so, like, you'd always, like, they'd always have, like, Eruption on, and then going into...
Girl, You Really Got Me Now.
Yeah, exactly. And all that stuff. And, like, that's fun to listen to. I wouldn't say that's my favorite. I don't know, man. It's so tough to choose. Because I like so many of that... on that particular album, right, with like Jump and stuff like that. I don't know. I'd have to say, what's your favorite?
Unchained. Okay. Starts off. It goes like that. Just if that helped you out understand which song I was talking about.
Oh, yeah. That one is good. Yeah.
They all kind of, they had like, even beyond just his guitar playing, which is definitive, even the way they did harmonies, group vocals, so much about that David Lee Roth era through 1984 was so distinctive, to where even knowing which, like, some of the songs kind of blend together just a little bit, some of the albums blend together because they had such a tight sound. They changed it a little bit for 1984 when they brought in the keyboards, and then he was like, hey, you guys think I only know guitar? By the way, I can also shred on the keyboards.
Right.
But all my favorites would be from the David Lee Roth era. I've never been like, I even like some Sammy Hagar solo stuff. I mean, I Can't Drive 55. It's in Back to the Future 2. Moss Tequila came out when I was in high school. So a lot of that stuff, but the actual stuff with Van Halen, that collaboration, none of it was particularly memorable for me. So, but like all the David Lee Roth stuff was pretty awesome for me. But so
I just thought about it. I think Panama might be that's probably one of my favorites for sure. That one's good.
That's 1984 is when they're all really good, but it seemed like the first one and then 1984 the last one they did with David Lee Roth both have just so many definitive songs amongst them that. But if you look at the other ones too, it's like, oh, these are also awesome. So just a really sad thing that to lose a legend so suddenly and without anything leading up to it. But that is the year 2020 for us. Okay, moving right along. Whew, we had a ton of delays this week.
That's all the news is this week. That's all it is.
The whole news is just a series of delays. And it's even remember which one came first, but I guess all the Disney stuff, we already talked about that. We weren't going to talk about delays, and then it dropped in the middle of the stream. And then right afterwards, No Time to Die gets delayed.
Right.
And then because No Time to Die got delayed, I don't even remember if we talked about that on there, if we just talked about it on your channel. I don't even remember anymore. It's all blending together.
Yeah.
So then No Time to Die gets delayed. And then Warner Brothers does this whole mass shuffle where they took Dune, shuffled it back to the Batman's date. And then the Batman got pushed back to 2022. And in the middle of all of this, the company that owns Regal Cinema said, hey, if we don't have No Time to Die, we can't stay open. So they decided they're going to close down temporarily. And I think that goes into action tomorrow as their last day open here in the U.S. for this foreseeable future. And so I don't think there's anything particularly interesting to talk about most of the specifics of any of these. But the question we talked about over on your over on your channel, if you guys want to go check that out, if you want a whole 20-minute discussion about all of this, is the goofiness of No Time to Die's delay. And then what does this mean for movies in general? So when we say the goofiness of the No Time to Die delay, is that they started their marketing campaign again.
Yeah.
And
not even their first. This is their second
big
campaign.
push. They kicked it off. They obviously put out another trailer a few weeks back. And then the day before they delayed, they put out a music video. And so that's like their final piece of marketing material they had that was be fresh and new. They put that out. The next day they're like, just kidding, it'll actually be a long time till the movie comes out. And so they have used up all their marketing material that they have, plus money, only to delay it. So it just feels like, right hand not talking to the left hand. And the delay itself isn't surprising. We thought that was coming. The surprising part is that they didn't seem to see it coming and kicked off the marketing stuff. And then I guess since they delayed the movie, they're still doing the press tour. So I think Daniel Craig and Billie Eilish were on Jimmy Fallon's show promoting the movie.
Oh my God, it was so it was like, why would you do that? Because I understand why they did it, because they already spent the money. So it's like, he was on Fallon. They dropped a clip. They showed a new TV spot. Billie Eilish performed her song. It's just like, well, we'll see you next year. And it was just like, so clearly this was like a down to the wire decision.
Right.
And they just decided to spend a bunch of money regardless. It's frustrating. I understand why they're doing this.
Right.
It makes sense. And on the other side of the coin, I don't think it's fair for people to solely blame Bond for Regal and Cineworld going under. I think that's absurd.
Yeah, it's the final piece, but everything else happened too.
Right.
So.
Well, and here's the other thing. If your entire business model hinders on a single film releasing in theaters, you've got bigger problems. Especially because it's like a third-party thing that requires you to stay in business. So, But yeah, all that said and done, it was great. I love the clip. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot, but it was a little expanded scene of what we'd seen in the trailers before, and the Hans Zimmer score was great. Yeah, man, I don't know. It was just rough to see. But again, they should never have mounted this second marketing campaign to begin with. All you had to do was listen to the experts, the science, and all that stuff to know that we were not going to be in a good situation. By the time that No Time to Die was coming out.
They needed to say, we're going to be the next person to test the waters. We know it's not going to do well, but we're going to do what we can. Make that decision, or you just look around. All these other ones did not get people to show up back to the theaters. It looks like all the signs are, we're not in a good place yet. And it's just a month ago. No one, that's when it was announced. No one was surprised by this. It was just weird because they dropped the Billie Eilish music video the day before.
Right. That's the thing that was this is going to happen, right? Because I mean, many people, before this happened were like, oh, it's not going to come out. It's not going to hit theater. Why? You're crazy. You're insane for thinking that. Then they start ramping up the second marketing campaign. They dropped the music video. Craig's supposed to be on Fallon debuting a new clip. And it's like, okay, you don't make these financial decisions unless you're 100% committed through. Yeah. Right. Yeah,
it's no longer a surprise that like, hey, the world's dangerous. Like, it's not a surprise, and I think that was so weird is that there wasn't a big change over the last 2 weeks. There wasn't a thing that happened that was like, oh, we just discovered this new thing. Oh, there was a change in the landscape. It was just they delayed until they spent money and released a music video, and then they went, yeah, let's pull the plug.
Yeah,
that's weird. Our buddy J-Buck Studios, everybody should be sure to head on over to J-Buck Studios channel, watch his stuff, and subscribe. He's a great friend of the podcast and channel. Curious, at what point will the floodgates break and they just have to release some of these via VOD? And I think that's the big conversation a lot of us are having on Twitter and other places of like, at what point in time will that happen? Because we're just getting at that point in time where like legitimately we have 9 months of blockbusters where only Mulan and Tenet will have been released. Everything else, 9 months of completed films, just shuffle to the next year. And then they have all the completed films that were already supposed to be coming out in 2021 in addition to those. And so then as you start stacking on top of each other, studios need to make money. You have to pour some fuel into the movie industry in some fashion. And at what point in time are they going to go, all right, we just have to cut our losses and realize that the market has changed and dramatically change our strategy. What we're planning on does not work. There's no good options. Let's just dump these wherever we can, at least some of them. And that's where I think some of them, I think they shot themselves in the foot. Like now it seems like so weird that Spiral, the Book of Saw, the new Saw movie.
Yeah.
What does that cost? $10 million to make? And they delayed it a year. Why would they they could have said, hey, we're gonna pull it. We're not quite sure what we're gonna do. Then you drop that VOD, drop it on streaming like today. That's the movie everybody talks about for the month of October. But they didn't do that. Or even Halloween. That couldn't have cost all that much money to make. And it would just absolutely destroy VOD and streaming. People love that franchise. Mm-hmm. Everybody would be talking about the new Halloween Kills. It would kill the month of October, but they delayed it a year. And I think I don't want to look. It's easy to hindsight 2020. None of us thought 6 months ago that we'd still be delaying movies now. So I don't want to go too far down the path of like, why did they do this? But at the same time, I can do that. Why did they do this?
Yeah, I mean, it is, I don't know. I understand why, because it's like they need to make money and they need to make calculated risks in this market of uncertainty. It's like, okay, we dumped all this money into the film. Should we delay the movie or not? So it's like, should we release now or not? Especially when the market is just, so tumultuous. So like, I understand wanting to delay certain projects. I do think Spiral would have killed it if they released it in October. That to me was probably a missed opportunity. But I also like, I don't know how much it would have lost in the process. So like this is sort of the conversation that I was having yesterday. I was having with friends and stuff like that. The thing that's frustrating about this was like, the lack of coordination between studios when it came to releasing the film. So like, I don't know if Warner Brothers tried like working with other studios to try and create like a release model for like films coming out. Obviously with going forward with Tenet, but I think, with Nolan pushing for Tenet to come out, he was hoping that, that would be like the little, stimulus that they need in order to like incentivize other studios to begin releasing films. So realistically, they should have had a better plan in place to be like, okay, listen, we will release Tenet right here. Maybe in about a month or so, you guys can release like Spiral or something like that. Maybe in a little bit later down the road, we'll do Wonder Woman 1984. No Time to Die, so on and so forth, and do this like slow ramp up. So there's that side of it. There's also the fact that maybe they shouldn't have released anything at all. Because like if other studios weren't willing to do this coordinated effort, then I think maybe WB in hindsight probably should have put its foot down and been like, hey, Chris, listen, we can't do this. It's going to be a disaster and it's going to do more harm than good. I understand them, putting faith in someone like Nolan because he's given them so much, but also they're the studio. It's their movie. Nolan will come back to work with you because he enjoys working with you, but also like, you got to be realistic about this whole thing. Because like now Tenet is already slated to come out on Blu-ray towards the beginning of December. And it's like, well, now you've just screwed your whole release model because people aren't going to go see it in theaters now if they can just wait to watch it on digital at the end of November, beginning of December. And so, like, I think Warner Brothers knows that it was a failure, and so they're just going to, put it on, VOD and disc and physical media and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. And I was talking about this with Jared and Zach on my live stream yesterday, which is the fact that I don't quite understand why the split release model of paid VOD and like limited theatrical / drive-ins like hasn't really been considered across the board. Like something like No Time to Die or something like Spiral or any of these sort of genre films or stuff like that. Soul may even do this, but like if they had, and it's what Netflix has been doing for years because they've literally had to have a limited theatrical window, maybe about a month or like 3 weeks or something like that, where you play the film in as many theaters as you can, including drive-ins, understand, the risk that you're taking, and then still play it in theaters, but put it on VOD, do some sort of like split release schedule there, something that appeases the theaters and NATO, not the the national whatever theater organization. It's just stupid that they're named the same thing, but something that's going to appease the theater owners and NATO, and something that's going to be a financial, it's something a little bit better than just like throwing darts at a board and seeing what sticks. It's, I don't know. There's a lack of I guess coordination and strategy here. Yeah, well, and
the thing I've been saying for about 3 months now, and now it's getting more and more ridiculous, is that it's bizarre to me that none of the studios have come up with a creative solution to what to do with their movies.
Right.
All of it is either like, let's delay our movie, or we'll go VOD with a different premium price. Disney's creative idea, we'll put it on our streaming service and charge $30. Like that, I mean, you see that, and it's there's no creativity, there's no exploration of how can you create win-win scenarios. There hasn't been the one of if you buy it for $25, you get a Blu-ray when it comes out. Off like they haven't found anything that feels like discovering the win-win.
Right.
And it's all just delay or premium price. And that to me is what's bizarre about all of this, is that these are the people that spend millions, billions of dollars coming up with creative stories, and they can't craft a creative release strategy.
Yeah.
It's just strange to me that no one, not one of the studios, they haven't teamed up. They haven't talked to each other. It doesn't seem like the studios are partnering up with the theaters. It just feels like not a single ounce of progress has been made in months of all of this. And that to me is just very frustrating and confusing as to why that is. So there's a lot of questions in the chat, but don't see a lot of comments related specifically to what we're discussing.
Right.
So I think someone asked how long will Regal be closed until there's movies. I mean, it's not like, hey, we're going to shut down for 3 months. Well, it's not that they're going to shut down for 3 months. They're going to shut down until movies are coming out. Like they just can't sustain it without those movies that pull people to the theater.
Yeah, that's the thing. There hasn't been, again, I feel like a dead record repeating the same thing, but like, there hasn't been like a film that's come out that's really like incentivized people to go to the movie theaters. Like I was saying yesterday, like Tenet, it's a Christopher Nolan film, and traditionally in a normal market, people would be willing to give that film a shot, right? They'd be willing to say, oh, this is interesting. Christopher Nolan has made cool films before. Let's give it a try. Let's go check it out. On top of like his loyal fan base. But like now it's like, okay, maybe we can wait for that one. It looks good, but it's not quite worth the risk. I feel like because there hasn't been like legitimately a blockbuster comic book film come out, there hasn't been a Black Widow, there hasn't been Wonder Woman 1984, that people are just like, yeah, I'm okay. I don't need to take that risk. Like, look, we take we take calculated risks every day just by going to the grocery store, but that's a necessity. You need that. If you're going to go to the theater, that is not necessarily like essential to do. So it better be worth your while if you want to be like, okay, maybe that's something I want to consider doing despite the circumstances. The theaters, the studios haven't given us anything to, warrant making that decision outside of Tenet. And that was what, back in August? So it's like, it has been a long period of time since it came out. And so people are like, I can wait. It's fine.
And it's part of that, getting people to think about going to the theaters, putting something that's actually a hook, that's enticing. And that gets, like, in the year 2020, going out to do things is weird. You don't know what the expectations are. I went out and had a night with the boys for the first time in like 7 months. Yeah. It's my buddy's birthday. And so Monday, we went out for dinner at a restaurant, and then we went to an escape room in downtown Austin. And all of that sound would be totally normal a year ago. Like, it wouldn't be you wouldn't have to think about any of it. But now it's, if you go to a restaurant, how long do you have? When do you have to have your mask on? When can you take it off? Where can you park in downtown Austin? Like, everything's different. We get to the escape room, they don't let you in the building until it's your time, so we have to stand outside. And so, like, there's all these little things about the way things used to normally work, and there's all these safety protocols, and that applies to a movie too. You go to the movie and you have to stand behind a plexiglass shield when you're like doing all this stuff. You have to have a mask on while you're watching the movie if you're not eating popcorn.
Right.
And all of those things dissuade people from wanting to go, or wanting to even put up with the fuss of figuring it out. And having a tentpole blockbuster that gets people to go and go, oh, it's not so bad, it's not so weird, it's fairly normal. Whatever those things are that gets them over the hurdle of going the first time, we haven't really had that besides just Tenet, that appeals to a group of people. That is a good hook for a group of people, but not for all people. And so then, when that one didn't catch people, so here we are. Right. The other question on this one, where the guy asked also, do you think AMC will follow suit? AMC's, they've been in pretty bad financial trouble a long time. Before all of this, they were in trouble. This wasn't helping. They shut down. It might be more permanent.
Yeah, I feel like they are in a situation right now where I don't know. Because I say that it would be financially beneficial to them to stay open, but like if nothing is coming out, what is the point? What is the purpose? The only film, as we'll talk about with the release date shuffles, the only film that they have to look forward to is Wonder Woman 1984. And that comes out on December 25th. And I'm not even convinced that that's going to come out on that date. So if they closed up shop, I have to imagine that is more cost effective than staying open and just, having people filter in and out and possibly go see Tenet, possibly, I don't know, go see like Raiders of the Lost Ark for the N-th time. I mean, there's only so much you can do in terms of classic films, like especially because it's like, well, okay, I don't need to go to the theater to see those. I can just watch them at home.
Right.
Again,
well, that's what I've been trying to, just out of like supporting theaters, to go to some of those and trying to get people to go with me. And so I went to see Friday the 13th, Sunday night. It was like 8 people in the theater. Yeah. And I'm trying to get my wife to go see Total Recall with me this weekend. She's like, if I want to watch Total Recall, I'll just watch it at home. Like,
well, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, here's a good idea. What if, and again, it probably depends on your financial situation, but you could always just buy a ticket to the film, right? And then just watch it at home instead of, going out to the theater to go see it. That way you are still supporting the theater, but you don't have to take like the risk of actually going somewhere. So I don't know.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
I will personally put my health on the line. trying to convince my wife to leave the house and do the same is not quite as easy. So all that to say, man, it's bad. Yeah. It's a pretty bad situation. All right, moving right along to our next topic of conversation on here. Yesterday, they announced the cast for the Resident Evil reboot. So I've seen all the movies, and I actually have a ranking written for it because I watched them for a top 15 highest grossing video game movies. I watched all of them because 5 of the movies on the list are on there, or something like 4 out of them. So might as well watch all of them. And I haven't shot the video yet, so I've been thinking about doing it for this month. But I haven't really played the games. I wasn't the biggest fan of them. The way that at least they used to be done, they might be better now, but they frustrated me back in the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era. So anyway, I don't really know the characters outside of the movies. So we've got Kea Scodelario. I don't actually know how to pronounce her name. Robbie Amell is in there, and Neil McDougall. Mm-hmm. And a bunch of other people, but that's like the whole cast all at once. It's always kind of fun whenever they do that. With, Kea seems to be, she's on a pretty solid streak over the last few years, kind of building a resume, doing a lot of different genres. Mm-hmm. It seems like they're taking it more seriously than just casting a former model to be the lead because he's the director wants to marry her. If you don't know, the director of the Resident Evil movies is married to Mia Jovovich. That's what that's referring to. Yeah. So, it seems like a positive direction. Robbie Amell seems to show up in everything these days. So everything that's not a blockbuster has Robbie Amell in it. Any thoughts on this? Have you played the games to be able to have an opinion as to whether this is good casting or not?
I haven't played it enough to be able to know if there's an opinion. I played one of them on like the PlayStation 1 back in... God, I don't know. Yeah, back when that was a thing. But like, I haven't. I trust this. The concept is interesting just because I know they're going to try and follow the games more closely, I guess, which will be good for fans of the franchise. But yeah, I'm not the person to go to when it comes to Resident Evil opinions. So sorry.
So, unfortunately, I don't have a better take on any of that. It's just to say that, it seems like they're trying to do a little bit better, I don't know, less schlocky take on the material. That's the way to phrase it. It seemed like they got in a rut with that franchise of they just were doing the slow-mo 3D action shots, very loose cannon with a bunch of it. So, I guess I'm optimistic, mildly, based off this casting information. Can't say too much beyond any of that, but the people that they got, I like these names to be attached to sure. it. But that's as far as I can really say. I had a super chat come in from Nicholas. Thoughts on getting director cut in Godfather 3. So I guess you're asking, they've announced that they're doing this new cut of the movie. What do I think about it? Francis Ford Coppola is kind of infamous for doing recuts of his movies and having long shoots where there's an enormous amount of footage so that they're trying to figure out what to do with it. Obviously with Apocalypse Now having I don't know how many cuts there are because I would run out of fingers trying to count the number of cuts they did for the movie. And so Godfather 3 had a really long shoot as well that had overruns and things like that. So there's a lot of footage. There's a lot of conflict between him and the studio and what he wanted to do with it, what he wanted to focus on, and what he wanted to title the movie versus what they thought it should be titled, and how he perceived it as an epilogue to the first 2 films, and they wanted it to be part 3. So what do I think of them doing a third cut or a new cut of Godfather 3? Cool. I don't have a strong opinion on it. So I can't really chime in with anything particularly interesting. I've only seen it once, and that was like 2 months ago whenever I was doing a ranking of the IMDb top 15. I was already going to watch Godfather 1 and 2, so I thought might as well watch Godfather Part 3 and do a ranking. So I did that a couple months back. That's the only time I've watched it. It essentially lived up to its reputation that it does a lot of things. It's nowhere near as good as the first 2. Does a lot of things really well, and Francis Ford Coppola casting his daughter in it, easily the weakest link in the film, and holds it back. So you can't really solve that by a recut.
Yeah, that was literally about that's what I was going to say. I was like, no retooling of footage would fix the glaring problem in that film, which is Sofia Coppola. Like, phenomenal director, great filmmaker. The film she just put out with Bill Murray and Rashida Jones is delightful. Love her. She's not a good actress.
Yeah, not an actress.
Yeah. So unless Coppola decided to just remove all of her scenes and figure out some semblance of a narrative and, get rid of nepotism, then sure, then I'm all in. But this, I can't possibly see how it'll fix the movie. Like Coppola is saying, oh, this is my director's cut of The Godfather 3, when we all know what the issues were with it.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it'll be better. I don't know. I'll check it out, but
and that's, how that's the thing about it that makes this one a little bit odd, is that's what I knew about it going into the movie, that his daughter's really bad. She's the weak link in the film. That's its reputation. And it's unfortunate that a Godfather film is just overshadowed by a bad performance, and the bad performances from the director's daughter. So it just looks bad. Like, there's not a good interpretation of it. Like, oh, you cast your daughter and she's terrible, and she gave a Godfather film a really bad reputation for that reason. Yeah, there's no way around it. That's what it is, and that is unfortunate. All right. Moving along to our next topic of the day, we got our first screenshots or first pictures from The Witcher Season 2. Just pictures of the cast wearing different costumes. Anytime it comes to these types of set photos, first reveals, the total film and stuff like that, I'm almost never actually interested in them. What they signify to me is it's definitely coming. It's really happening. And that's cool. Yeah. That's interesting to me that it's locked in, they're filming. Cool. But that's all they really are to me. like, oh, look, it's Henry Cavill in a black suit with a sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, it's Yennefer.
I don't. Yeah, it's like, cool. Okay, we got a season 2 coming, but I'm like, whatever. I don't really care too much about that. So, yeah, I mean, it looks cool, but I can't say that I have a lot of insight.
Yeah. So that's all. I just want to kind of acknowledge it. See if did you watch season 1 of The Witcher? I don't recall.
I watched like half of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I liked what I saw of it. I just have been meaning to finish it. I have The Haunting of Bly Manor I need to finish right now.
I'm 6 episodes into that too. Did you see The Turning in January?
No.
So it's a weird situation. So the Haunting of Bly Manor and The Turning, they're both based off this same story from 100 years ago.
Oh, it is based off the same story. Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, The Turning of a Screw. And so I start watching The Haunting of Bly Manor, which it comes out on Friday, but we have press links for it. And so I'm watching it, and I was like, isn't this just The Turning? This is really familiar. And then there's some things that were different enough that I was like, all right, maybe it's just very
Listen, similar. Don't you dare compare Bly Manor to The Turning. That is,
but they are. It's the same story. It's the exact same story. Yeah. So I got to episode 4, and I was like, this is too similar. There's got to be something going on here. This is getting weird. So I looked up like, oh, it is. We have 2 different adaptations of this 120-year-old story coming out in the same year. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting. So that's what I'm watching right now as well. On The Witcher, once you finish it, it makes the whole thing better. The first half of it, I watched it and I went, what on earth is going on? Like, I don't get this. Yeah. So then I read some stuff about the timeline and went, oh, okay, this makes more sense. And I rewatched it and I liked it a lot more when I watched it knowing the timeline.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So I don't know. Hopefully it gets better then as it goes on.
So, all right, moving right along. Next subject at hand would be, we got the very weird announcement that Jamie Foxx is returning as Electro.
Yeah.
So for Spider-Man 3, assumption being we're going multiverse. So, but that's not guaranteed. And then Jamie Foxx put out an Instagram post where he said he wasn't going to be blue. Yeah, and then he deleted that.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
So it's not just that we got this weird announcement that was like, what? I don't, like, I don't know what to make of this one other than to say, you're the defender of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
How about you try and explain to us why this is an amazing thing for them to do? That's a great idea.
I think it's, well, I don't know. I mean, it gives him a new chance to sort of like do something with the character differently, to explore him further. I actually really liked Jamie Foxx in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I thought just the campiness that he brought to it, his arc was good. I mean, obviously, I think the movie kind of like treated him poorly. Like the movie, like at every chance they get, just took a giant dump on him. Was really mean-spirited towards him, and so like in a weird way, it sort of like made me have more sympathy towards him, even though he's like clearly a bad guy. I guess I don't know. It was just, he was just a fascinating character that I enjoyed, and like I definitely like to see more of. And I think, you know, with the way he died in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you can make the argument that, oh yeah, when all the energy and electricity sort of just like, you know, supercharged him, it like shot him into another dimension or whatever, and then that's going to be how he shows up in you know, Spider-Man 3. That paired with the rumor of like Tobey and Andrew Garfield possibly returning back, that paired with the other rumor that apparently Kirsten Dunst and Dane DeHaan are supposed to be returning as Green Goblin and Mary Jane Watson. Just cut the crap and call it Spider-Verse. That's basically what they're trying to do, and I think that the success of the animated film proved that you can do that, but you know, we'll see if it works out in the live action film. My issue with this is that, and I said this yesterday, during the Tom Holland era, we've never gotten the opportunity to have a Spider-Man centric focused movie.
Exactly. A normal Spider-Man story.
A normal Spider-Man. It's always like team ups, you know, interdimensional stuff, multiverse, like just a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, give me Holland Spider-Man dealing with real world issues. Like, wouldn't it be great if, like, you know, the Far From Home stuff is happening, and so now the world knows his identity, and like the state of, or the city of Manhattan or New York or whatever is like putting him on trial for the murder of what they thought to be this supervillain or this superhero, this guy that was supposed to be their next savior. So it's like him dealing with that personal issue, and then like maybe, I don't know, Norman Osborn like hires Kraven the Hunter to take him down or something. Yeah. Like I don't know. Obviously, there's like more stuff that could go in there, but something that is very much just like Peter dealing with the repercussions of what happened in the last film, but also like keeping it a Spider-Man story. I just find it really funny that their whole MO with the Tom Holland era has been like, oh, we're going to dial it back and we're going to bring it back to just light Peter Parker in high school, being a kid and just doing friendly neighborhood Spider-Man things. And I feel like we got that for like a film. And then the rest of the time that he's been Spider-Man, it's been this like intergalactic conflict. And yeah.
I mean, it's you know, he starts off in Civil War, and so it's a team-up movie. So it's fun to see him in a team-up movie. Cool. I'm down for that. And then we do Homecoming, and it is him in high school. Really appreciated that. It's also Tony Stark heavy, and he's got a tech suit and everything. In and of itself, that bugged me a little bit, but not like it wasn't anything to make too much of. Then we take Spider-Man, and we send him to space for 2 movies. So we have Spider-Man in space. So then we come back from space and we send him to Europe. And even in Homecoming, we send him to Washington, D.C. And so every single one, and then when we send him to Europe, it's S.H.I.E.L.D. heavy. And it's implying multiverse heavy, and then it's not where it goes. But it's a lot of not letting Spider-Man stand on his own. And it's doing alternate takes on Spider-Man, which, granted, we got 5 Big Apple stories in a row. Cool. Now we've had 5 weird stories in a row. And I'm fine with weird. But at some point in time, I want to see just Tom Holland swinging through the Big Apple, doing normal stuff. J. Jonah Jameson, he's a menace over the news. and like classic Spider-Man type stuff, not let's find a new alternate take to do with it immediately.
Yeah.
I don't want like people. So, the comment from Gamer Man, comic book thinks that all 3 Spider-Mans will be in Spider-Man 3. That seems to be a lot of the rumor mill. Do I hate the idea of at some point in time seeing all 3 Spider-Men together? No, there's a novelty to that that's really interesting. But do I more so want to see just a normal just let Tom Holland be Spider-Man telling a normal Spider-Man story without needing to be propped up by space, traveling the globe, Nick Fury, Tony, just let him have his own movie with none of that stuff.
Yeah.
No. We're going to bring in all the other Spider-Men. Yeah. We don't think Tom Holland can do it on his own. For one movie, let him do it on his own.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Is I worry that they would just overshadow him in his own movie.
Right, exactly, yeah. You bring back Tobey Maguire, you bring back Kirsten Dunst, and then you have Andrew Garfield in there. Tom Holland suddenly is the least interesting person in his own movie.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, look, it worked in Spider-Verse because we weren't attached to the act. It was all about the characters. It wasn't about the actors playing the characters. If you have Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, all these people coming back into the fold, it's okay, I'm more interested in these people and how they're going to fit in here than I am about Tom Holland and his journey. Now, what they could do is that they could be in there for a small amount of time and they could keep it focused on Holland for sure, like they did with Miles in the animated Spider-Verse movie. I just don't know how well that's going to translate. I don't know. At least give Holland this Spider-Man 3, and then if you want to do Spider-Verse, do it after that. It's not like people are asking for much. They just want one film where he's dealing with just real world issues without Stark involved, without the Avengers involved, without Nick Fury and stuff like that. Just let him be Spider-Man. You don't need anyone else. Spider-Man is going to get people into the theater alone. You don't need to add all of these gimmicks and stuff in order to make people excited about Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man. So
exactly. People love Spider-Man because he's Spider-Man.
Exactly.
People love Spider-Man in New York. People love classic Spider-Man, and people love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It doesn't need any gimmicks. It doesn't need all that other stuff. It's if movie 4 they want to go in that direction, I'd probably even be okay with that. I just want one swing from the Big Apple, normal Tom Holland story, And that's why I had a bunch of people on Twitter being like, hey, we already got that 5 times. But we haven't gotten it with this version. Why would you want to go through this version that's the most prolific Spider-Man that we've gotten and not have just a normal story? That's weird. That's weird to do that. Oh, well, Homecoming was. Was it really though? It's not super different. It was the right move at that moment. Coming off of 5 movies that we'd done classic, swinging through from skyscrapers, putting him in the suburbs, putting him at a high school, absolutely. Now he's grown up, so let him swing from the skyscrapers for a little bit, just a little bit, a little bit. Let me see it. So that would be nice. Alrighty. I was going to talk about the Free Guy trailer today. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to watching it. Enough life has happened, enough things have happened that I just happened to miss the Free Guy trailer. So unfortunately, I can't chime in too much on that one, except to say that I saw that it existed, but I did not actually watch it myself. Is there anything in the world of movie news that I missed? It seemed like a lot of just bombarded
just
by
a lot
stuff.
of just delays. I like the Dune delays, the Batman delays.
Yeah. So,
what is there to say about that we haven't already said by talking about the theater closures and stuff like that? Obviously those films are going to move. I don't know why. I don't know why they waited so long to wait and see if they were going to move Dune. That to me was of course you're gonna move Dune. I would have been okay with them maybe doing something on HBO Max. Not that it would have happened just because it's Dune, but it's they're already working on a show for HBO Max. So it's why not maybe pair Dune with that and drop it on there? Because I don't know how many people like it's already a very niche film, and I'm anticipating that it makes around Blade Runner 2049 numbers.
That's what's going to happen. It's going to spend a ton of money on marketing. People are going to be shocked that this property that's not actually Star Wars. It's not actually big, exciting, fast-moving blockbuster. It's not that. It was never going to be that. It was never supposed to be that. It's probably going to be exactly what it's supposed to be. It's going to get like over 90%, over 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Its target audience is going to love it, and its target audience is going to be about the same size as Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that maybe dropping it on something like an HBO Max I don't even know how much money it would make, but I think people would be more interested in checking it out there because they can just do it from the comfort of their home. Maybe even doing like a limited, like a paid VOD release like that on there. I don't know. It's something interesting to entertain. Not that I would ever want to see it that way. Not that I think they would ever do it, but like, I don't know. You might reach a wider audience that way.
Right. All right. I think that'll do it for the audio version of the podcast. Griffin, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me over on the Film Speak channel doing God knows what. And then you can also find me on Twitter at Griff Schiller.
Everyone, be sure to head on over to his channel, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff for coverage of all kinds of movies, movie news. And we have what's your Indiana Jones series you have coming up in the near future?
Oh, yeah, I'm working on a video. So there is well, I can't really tell you what it's about, but there is a thing happening on November 1st, and I am working on a video essay for it about Temple of Doom that I've like almost finished writing. And so I'll have a very fancy video essay up with my voiceover and stuff. It's like a deep dive into that film. It's very long. So I'm very excited to release that. That'll be happening November 1st. So keep an eye out for that.
Be sure to check that out. If you're on the audio version of this, be sure to leave a rating and review. And no, we record these live on Wednesdays if you want to join in for the discussion as they happen and the Q&A that happens afterwards. That's normally Wednesdays at 11 o'clock Central Time, sometimes a little bit later. We'll try and announce it in advance when we can. And keep talking movies too much. All right, if you guys want to start throwing questions into the chat, I know a bunch of you have been asking questions and getting a little bit impatient waiting for me to answer. It's here. We always cover the news, and then we dive into the chat so we can keep on topic with the subjects that were announced, and then we can go wherever you guys want afterwards. First question on here. What is the name of his channel? Film Speak. Look up Film Speak. You should find it. I believe there's a link in the description. If there's not, I made a mistake. I normally just copy and paste, and so it's just I have it set. So it's Film Speak. But if you look up Griffin Schiller, if you look up Film Speak, you will find his content. And a super chat from Majestic Demon. Thank you so much. I saw The Empire Strikes Back in theaters last night. It was an incredible experience. That's one of the things that's there's not a lot, but one of the few things that's pretty cool about right now is that there are a lot of classic movies that you wouldn't normally be able to see on the big screen that you can.
Right.
So, like I've seen Empire Strikes Back on the big screen a few times in a couple different formats, but like I'd never seen Friday the 13th on the big screen. Any of those classic 80s slashers, I'd never seen any of those. So I went to go see Friday the 13th. It's kind of a random movie for me to go see because I wouldn't like claim that that's like a movie I'm super attached to. But that was something for me that was like, I've never done this before. I've never seen one of these before. It's not quite the same experience when there's 8 people in there as opposed to, a crowded theater screaming or whatever, but still seeing it on the big screen is kind of neat.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's one of the things that's pretty cool about right now. Nicholas Caldwell had a super chat. Thanks so much. Just wondering, what is your favorite director's cut? Favorite director's cut?
Good question.
It's tough to, off the top of my head, trying to think of what's my favorite director's cut, because there's ones
probably. Well, yeah, I mean, like probably the Blade Runner one, right? Because that one like completely changes the film in a way, if in a good way, I think. So probably that. So there are different versions of the Blade Runner's director's cut. There's the director's cut, and then there's the final cut. I think the final cut adds like a few more things and it gets rid of a couple things, and that's probably the best version of the film. So probably that. I also really like the Apocalypse Now Redux. I think that's pretty good too.
So we're trying to think through. 'Cause I'm not a big Blade Runner fan, so I wouldn't throw that one in there. And there's a lot of them that I just didn't, that are nice. The ones that I normally think of are movies that I love, and it's just a little bit more of it. That's normally what comes to mind for me. Like Terminator 2 is like one always has a special place for me because director's cuts were pretty rare until the advent of DVD. And so back in the 90s, they did this special edition release of it that was like VHS, and there was 2 copies in it, and it was letterbox, which was very rare back in the 90s.
Right.
And so then it had some special features on other deleted scenes, and they just didn't have that stuff back then. So that's the one that kind of always stands out to me as special. Yeah. Oh, Ryan Ray, thoughts on Aaron Sorkin's films? We ever do a ranking? It's entirely possible. It's not one I rush to because it's not quite on brand for the types of stuff I normally attract. It's also tricky because he's a screenwriter. Like he's most famous as a writer, even for a lot of television, and so it gets tricky as to what you would include in that. But like I love A Few Good Men and a bunch of his other stuff too. He's a very snappy writer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no,
I probably should have paused on there.
Oh no, you're good. I was just gonna say like it's difficult to. Yeah, it's like, do you rank all of his films, like even the directed and written ones? Because he usually wrote whenever he directs a film, he's also written it. So it's like, can you include that with the other films that he didn't direct? So yeah,
and that's what makes I don't normally do that. I normally, what have they directed or something like that. So I don't think I've never done a screenwriter's ranking before like that. So, right. But he himself is a brand. There's not a lot of screenwriters that are a brand like Aaron Sorkin. You know his dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
Billy Bob Joe, when are you special guests going to return to the podcast? I invited someone for this week's. It just didn't come through. Yeah. So there's a number of reasons that I haven't done a great job at that. I mean, here's the short answer. Here's what's going on. I just don't have as much time or energy for my channel right now because I'm homeschooling. And so because of that, I'm having to pick where do I put my energy because I'm spending hours sitting at a table trying to get kids to learn multiplication, which is exhausting. So that's basically what's going on. And so adding to that, trying to track down and schedule people, it's tricky. Even trying to schedule Griffin, he has other things going on in his life. Like that, why do we sometimes the schedule change? Because he has other things going on. So to try and schedule a third person with his schedule, there's a lot of moving parts. That's the short version of why it kind of hasn't happened. But I invited someone for this week. They just told me no. It'll happen sometime this year, but they told me no. And then it's also like the people that are the people that I've had on the most are the people that also tell me yes and they can do it whatever time I ask them to do it. It's just easy. And the people that I don't know as well, there's a lot more hiccups in the process of scheduling them. So there's a lot of stuff like that as to why we haven't been as good with that.
Yeah.
Nick Cooling, love watching your horror rankings. You don't do horror as often as some other genres. It's cool to see. I don't know that I would agree with that sentiment. I don't know that I would agree with that. Some of my horror rankings haven't done as well. Like I did Phantasm, I did Evil Dead, and they just didn't do as well. And so they don't go out to as many people. But like I was just looking at my top horror rankings. There's like 20 franchises in there. Whenever a new horror franchise comes out, I do rank them. Whenever there's, some of them are just trickier to do. Also, like I just watched all the Critters movies.
Oh God.
I don't see a reason to rank all of those. Other than doing 31 on 31. So I'm ranking 31 horror movies on the 31st of this month. So I've got some more, some coming up in the near future. But it's not on my end that I'm just not doing horror rankings. There aren't as many I've done a lot of the iconic ones, or it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is iconic, but there's like 10 of them, and a lot of people haven't. It's stuff like that makes it tricky. Right. But it's on my mind all the time. I don't avoid horror at all, and I'm always thinking October, which ones can I do? And then because we the year 2020 happened, I had to change my plan. It was going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then I asked the Autopsy stream people to join them for 31 on 31. Raza's League of the Best. What is your favorite Harry Potter movie? That's a question for you, Griffin, because I don't know how to read.
I really like. I was literally just had a conversation about this with a friend the other day. It is Half-Blood Prince. I think the Half-Blood Prince is just.
Do you think the movie
sublime.
Is one of the better movies or one of the weaker movies?
I think it's one of the better ones. It probably is my second favorite behind Prisoner of Azkaban, film wise. So yeah, I mean, like, listen, I don't think the book was ever going. I'm sorry, I don't think the film was ever going to be as good as the book. But I kind of liked how they played into the teen drama of it. It was a little darker. The stuff towards the end is obviously excellent. It's yeah, I don't know. I really dug it. So
I've listened to the first 3, and the first 2 are pretty direct adaptations. The films are
literally beat for beat.
So I haven't really gotten to the point in time where they really dramatically change.
Prisoner of Azkaban is completely different from. Well, okay, completely.
Maybe I haven't listened to that. Maybe I've only listened to the first 2, or maybe I don't. Or maybe I listened to the third one over too much time that I lost it a little bit. But
yeah, the third one takes some radical. The film takes some radical detours from the book, and I think in a way it's actually better. At least in my opinion, I don't know. You'd have to ask like Potter purists and stuff like that what they think. But
my kids listen to Harry Potter 1 and 2 as audiobooks every single night before they go to bed. Toys for Fun. Wow. Given the delay, when will the Batman trailer debut? We'll get something at Comic-Con or DC Fandom 2021. We won't get anything before that.
Yeah,
it'll be one of those big deals where they have to do something like that.
Yeah.
Can you review Avatar: Last Airbender? I've kind of started watching it with my kids. I just have a ton of things I'm trying to watch, so I'm trying to watch it a little bit. If I have something to say, I will. Ola, please answer me. You've been answered. I'm not just trying to be rude and dismissive, but like I keep reading that comment from you to answer you, but I don't know what you're asking me. So. Daniel Skinner, when you do your DreamWorks ranking, preface the assumption in the statement being that I'm working on a DreamWorks ranking, which I am. So if you guys are wondering, people ask me all the time, are you going to do a DreamWorks ranking? Are you going to do a DreamWorks ranking? Yes is the answer to that. It is in the works. I have my files open on my computer and everything, writing notes on all the movies. People have been sending them in fan mail. So that's something that's on my mind. Might happen when Croods 2 comes out. I just don't know if that's an event film worthy of a ranking of 40 movies. I don't know, but with nothing else coming out either, I don't even know if Croods 2 will come out or if it'll just go straight to streaming too. And a movie that drops straight to streaming does not at all feel like a movie that would be worthy of a 40 movie ranking. That's a big project. Oh, I didn't read the rest of everything it says though. Can you also do a top 10 DreamWorks villains? It's hardly ever been done before. It could be a good experiment. I just don't think I could. I don't think I would be the right person to do it because you have to keep in mind the more specific a ranking gets, the deeper your knowledge has to be. The deeper your working knowledge has to be. So, and I've watched through a bunch of the best movies in there already, not trying to make a ranking of the villains or a top 10 of the villains. But the more specific you get, like what's your favorite moment from every single DreamWorks movie? That's real specific that you have to either know the movies really well, like I know Star Wars, like I know MCU, or you have to make notes as you go along. I haven't been making those notes. So those ones are just tough for me to do if I wasn't planning on doing it from the get-go.
Yeah.
So you guys are asking questions about things I have rankings about, like what's my favorite Lord of the Rings movie. I did a ranking of the Lord of the Rings movies 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So
also just to the one guy saying please answer me. I don't know what questions you're asking.
Nobody knows what you're asking. Max Bolton, I recently watched your Toy Story ranking. Has it changed at all since then? I mean, my Pixar ranking would be my most up-to-date thoughts on the Toy Story movies, and that would be from back in March. I've been rewatching through the Pixar movies as I do every year, or every about a year and a half, every 2 years. I'm always cycling through them. Certain ones I watch all the time because my kids just like them, but I watch all of them every 2 years. I don't know. I've rewatched Toy Story 2 recently. My kids have watched Toy Story 3, but I haven't watched all 4 of them to be able to say how much things have changed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even remember the last time I watched Toy Story.
Fluffy, what's the best action movie of the decade? Ooh. Well, since we are only 10 months into this decade, it is Extraction. And I don't think there's any competition.
Yeah, I would also agree. I think it is Extraction. Wait, Sean.
What do we got? What do we forget about?
We're forgetting about Bad Boys for Life.
We do have Bad Boys for Life. That's a solid film. Yeah. That is it. But we also have Rogue, the movie about Megan Fox as the leader of a team of mercenaries trying to free some girls from sex trafficking while battling wild lions. That's quite the film. But Bad Boys for Life is an entertaining film. Extraction is a movie that pushes the action genre forward. So for this decade, it's Extraction. We're only 10 months in. If you're talking about last decade, I don't know. I mean, I actually haven't seen Raid 2, so it's tough for me to give an answer when I haven't seen one of the answers that people give. Obviously, the John Wick films are like when it comes to Hollywood, the John Wick films are the premium franchise from the last decade. So those are some thoughts.
I would probably say that Mission Impossible Fallout comes pretty close to being one of the best of the last decade.
I always struggle to, because it's when I think best action movie of the decade, I'm thinking not subgenred. That's where it gets tricky for me. And so when you throw in Mission Impossible, that's a spy action. But they really are doing like the best practical stunts.
Yeah.
So it's that's where you're getting that hand-to-hand fight in the bathroom that's really good. So that's where it's tough. So I by default, I don't think about movies like that by default, but they're not like I could just be in the wrong in my thinking on that one. Yeah. Ryan Geisen with the super chat. Thank you so much. Would you like to see a Daredevil movie with the Netflix cast? There's a couple different ways to think about it. Like, is there any chance that they're going to do that? No, there's no chance they would do that. As a hypothetical, would I want them to be? Would I like to see more of those characters? Yes. If that could happen as a movie, would I want to see that? Yes. The idea that they would get $60 million for just 2 hours. Because I don't want a $200 million Daredevil movie that shifts it from street level to all of a sudden buildings are blowing up, and like I don't want that. I don't need a blockbuster. I want what they did, except maybe a little bit grander in scope. But it's the same street level stuff where you get full Bullseye. They had Bullseye, but they didn't use Bullseye as Daredevil. Normal Bullseye, they teased that at the end of season 3. Would I want that? Sure. Yeah. I'm down for that. Will it happen? No, it won't happen. And I do not, what I'm not interested in at all is Disney-ified these characters. I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'd love to see Charlie Cox continue to play Daredevil for as long as he possibly can. Same with, why am I blanking on her name, is Karen. She's so good. And, like, yeah, we barely got to explore Daredevil. So it's like...
Right.
or not Daredevil, Bullseye.
Yeah.
Bullseye. So,
it was like an extended origin, and then you get to the last shot, and it's like, oh, it's canceled.
Yeah, exactly. So of course, I'd like to see more of them explored. I just don't think it would work in the context of or the confines of the MCU. Right. So I don't know. Maybe Charlie Cox. He's the only one that maybe if they brought him specifically back, that it would work. But I don't know if it'll necessarily happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the tone matches as much as they've tried to claim. Oh, it's in the MCU. Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah,
it's they've done Easter egg references to Avengers. That's what they've done, and then the MCU's never referenced it. So they haven't really done anything to indicate that they want to tie them together. Besides, wink, wink, which is more of a marketing thing that it makes people. Oh, I got to watch these. I want to watch everything in the MCU, but it's not. Yeah. You don't. There's no ties or anything like that. Real quick one, Neek Nerd Geek. Do you have plans to do any other community views? If so, what? Yeah, I'll probably do a couple more. I was very disappointed by the performance of the season ranking, considering the number of requests I've gotten to do that video. Much like the show itself, I'm sure for the network, its audience is rabid. They are loud. They are passionate, but they are a small group. And that was the experience that I had with posting that video. I posted it, and it was YouTube tells you your performance of your last 10 videos compared to the previous ones, and it remained number 10 out of 10, like the fewest views. It went up briefly, and then it dropped hard down to staying as the least viewed, in which case that's the my subscribers telling me they're not interested in more community videos. Some of you are. Some of you would love that. But the overwhelming majority is not as interested. And right now I'm in a position to where I'm trying to homeschool, trying to get a lot of stuff done. I don't have as much time, so dedicating time to do a video that I know there's not a lot of interest for, that's what I have to justify. So I definitely plan on doing a top 10 favorite episodes. That's also tough because one of the ones that should be on a top 10 favorite episodes has been pulled from Netflix. The first D&D episode was pulled. And so then I have a buddy of mine that I'm pretty sure he has it, so I can still watch it, track it down. But so there's just a lot of factors in it. So rank the Child's Play movies, a.k.a. Chucky, in updated ranking. There's nothing to update. I put it out a year ago when the new movie came out. There's nothing to update. I don't I update it if I've changed as a creator, so I'm going to update my Aliens ranking in the near future because I've changed. But that was a year ago. There's nothing really to update there. So this is just a couple of ones where people are asking me about my channel. Kendrick, when you guys were growing up, what did you guys always dream of doing for a career?
Surviving.
I don't know. I never had much of a vision for what I would be doing. I've always liked to create things, so I've always had ideas for things like that. Talked about earlier and how I was in several bands and had dreams of the bands working out. I wrote some stuff, dreams of being a filmmaker. So I've always it's always drifted towards creative endeavors. And here I am, kind of creating for my content for myself.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, like I kind of always thought that I would want to be a filmmaker and stuff like that, and then I kind of discovered this space, and then I was like, oh, maybe I kind of want to do this instead. So I don't know. Maybe I still have filmmaking ambitions. Who knows? But I love doing this, and if I could make this a sustainable career for myself, I'd love to.
Okay. Next up, we had a super chat from Daniel Skinner. Does Griffin have any knowledge of Moon Knight?
Not really. I mean, all I can say is read the Mr. Knight, run of the character written by Warren Ellis. It is just really good. It's probably the best it's probably the best storyline that Moon Knight has ever gotten, and it's what most people know him for. Or like what they like about the character is in Mr. Knight. So, yeah, but I really don't have much Moon Knight knowledge. Sorry.
And I have no Moon Knight knowledge. Ethan, do you think you will ever rank review any of the books you read? I have on my second channel. I used to do that every month. I'd cover the books that I went over. So I have over there. So short answer is yes, I have done so.
But he's refusing to now because you asked.
Yes, I'm refusing to now. I mean, if there's interest in it, I will. That channel's intentionally kind of a junk drawer. It's shifting towards like a family channel, but I have done stuff like that before. Armando, what are your thoughts on Star Wars Squadrons? Yeah, so I've played it. It wasn't one that I was thinking I would binge through or anything like that, the way that I did with Avengers. It's just not one that as intriguing to me in that manner. And it's also inherently a little bit more monotonous, so I don't think it lends itself as well to binge playing. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of weird to me because it's the best I've found of a Star Wars ship fighter since the 90s. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't feel like we've made advances since the 90s. And I think, or like, even graphically speaking, obviously, in certain senses, it's much better than it was in the 90s. But because of the nature of space, this blackened stars, it doesn't feel like it's that different from what it was when I was playing X-Wing, TIE Fighter, Wing Commander 3 and 4. And so then, thus far, it hasn't. It's been a little bit monotonous in the playing. And the stuff when you're on the spaceships is designed way too much for VR. Like you're stagnant and you can look around but you can't move around. And so it's like designed for if you have a helmet on and you're just doing this, it would be really cool. But if you don't have a helmet on, it's awkward.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, I was thinking about getting it, but I wasn't sure if it was like worth it. I mean, it looked kind of fun, but I feel like it would get boring after a while.
Yes. Yeah, it's that's what I've tried to do. What I is that I binged it when I first got it for a few hours, and then now I'm trying to like just play a couple missions every day, and just kind of have a cadence to it, so I don't burn myself out on it, but that I'm still making progress through it. Right. And then I don't know how long it is, so whenever I finish it, we'll see what happens. Joseph, what is your favorite space movie? If you've watched my top, if you're familiar with my channel, if you heard me talk about stuff, if you've watched my Star Wars rankings, if you watched my top 20 favorite movies, the answer is in there. It's not like a big surprise or interesting pick. It's Empire Strikes Back, because I love Star Wars. So, and then Star Trek 2 would be the follow up to that. I don't. Maybe other Star Wars movies would be on top of Star Trek 2, but if you're going to outside of the Star Wars franchise, Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan would be the next one behind that. How about you? What's your favorite space movie?
Oh God, that's so tough. I really, really, really love 2001: The Space Odyssey. So like that's definitely like up there. Yeah, but like, Star Wars, I don't know. It's so hard for me to talk about Star Wars because I'm so burnt out on it right now that I'd probably look less favorably upon it than how I actually feel. But I love the Abrams Star Trek films for sure. I don't know. No, I'd probably go 2001. That's just that was an incredible theater going experience for me. So I love it.
Quick reviews. Hey, Sean, are you ever going to use Letterboxd again? I'm sure I'll tinker with it again.
Sean doesn't believe in Letterboxd.
I don't believe in it. I don't think it even exists. So even when I do use it, it's just me playing make-believe. It's just not helpful for me. It's work that doesn't have payoff. I track all my notes for what I watch in Evernote. That's for the purposes of creating videos. Evernote is much more intuitive and useful. So Letterboxd, it's just me copying and pasting things. And then every time I do, here's where I get fried on things and I just quit doing them, is every time I do something with Letterboxd, a fan that's a Letterboxd fanatic criticizes the way I used it. Like, could you actually do this instead? Why don't you do this? And as soon as I get those comments, I'm like, I just don't have time for this. Like people keep asking me to do more and more on Letterboxd. I did something on Letterboxd, and then they criticize me for doing something on Letterboxd. Like, I am not playing this game. And that's one of the key things that made me stop using it. It's like, I just have no interest in that.
I just, for whatever reason, I got a notification, and I got a funny comment on the No Time to Die video that we did. And it's this guy saying, dude in the vest, which was you in the tank top, dude in the vest looks like he needs another line. I can almost taste it watching him. So.
Okay.
That was so funny. That was good. It's a good one.
People are amazing. Clark Kent, are your kids going to online school? No, we're homeschooling. We totally pulled them out of public school because it... so we'd have more control of it. It's really stressful to have kind of be reliant on the back and forth of a teacher trying to do virtual school and the ever-changing nature of that. And so it's just easier for us to just do more work, but control how and when things happen. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Questions. Please.
I think this might be our best show yet. I'm going to be honest. This might be the best one we've ever done.
As I'm kind of going through all of this, like sometimes you guys like make comments. I'm doing my best to find everything. It's just when you leave a comment that doesn't have a context, I don't know what it means. Okay. I think what you're referencing, you made a super chat a while ago that I missed. So Nicholas Caldwell asked, thoughts on Troy, you sack of wine. Do you know what that means?
I assume he's talking about the movie Troy.
What does the "you sack of wine" comment mean?
I don't know. Is that might be a line from the movie? Yeah. I just don't remember. But Troy is a movie that I wanted to like more than I actually did.
That's a good way to put it. I saw it in the theater. I was like, at that time, it was just a few years after Gladiator, and there was a lot of those historic epics. And so it looked like it was going to be another great one. And it's, from Wolfgang Peterson, great cast. And then it was like, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
It's I haven't watched it in a while. So I can't to the level that I don't know what the "you sack of wine" comment means. But I don't have any negative thoughts specifically. It's like, oh, I didn't like it because I couldn't tell you what it was.
Yeah.
It just didn't make the impact that it probably should have.
Hey, James Horner score with his little, calling card motif, right? There's that.
And I don't even remember that he did it. It was that long ago that I've seen it. So
yeah.
Sean.
Why?
Legitimately, I've been looking for your question. Like you were saying you were waiting for the Q&A. Like I've been looking for I'm not just trying to pick on you or anything, but I don't know what you're asking. All the comments I'm seeing from you are ones that are incomplete. Chatty, could you ever do a video ranking DC films ever made like you did with Marvel? Yeah, absolutely. I've been working on that. I started working on that back in January for Wonder Woman. Then it got delayed. Then it got delayed again. And I can't do the video now because it's coming out the movie's coming out at Christmas. And that I just can't at Christmas time do a project of that size. Along with doing my end of year videos as well as doing all my other DCEU stuff that I would do related to the release of that film. So I don't think it's happening this year. I don't know when I'm going to do it. So it's there's a lot of things that have been a little bit disappointing about 2020. That would be on my list, that I was hoping to do that video. I thought it was going to be a really cool one. And I've watched half the DC movies. I've written tons of notes. Now I'm going to have to rewatch all of them, much like I'm going to have to rewatch all the Bond films.
But listen, Sean, the greatest gift that 2020 is giving us is a movie called Fat Man, where Santa, played by Mel Gibson, works with the U.S. military to save his declining business while being hunted by an assassin played by Walton Goggins. So you have that to look forward to.
Oh, I do. Azim, Jurassic World Dominion delayed to 2022. Thoughts? Happy, sad? I feel mixed. They get more time to work on it. I don't have any thoughts or feelings on it. It's just It's just one of these delays, and it's not. I don't care about any of the ones that are already off in the distance because it's just so intangible. Like, we were supposed to see No Time to Die 6 months ago. We were supposed to see Black Widow 5 months ago. So the ones that, like, it's done. It's sitting on a computer, as you always say. Those are the ones.
Watch it. Yeah.
Like, yeah, someone like the director, anytime he's in the mood, he can just sit down and watch it. Those are the ones that I feel kind of like oh man, this is rough. But when a movie was already way down the line, they're still filming it or whatever. Those are the ones I don't feel that. Like, doesn't make me sad that the Batman got delayed again because it was already a year away. Right. And so that happens. That's normal. So I don't have any additional feelings about this one getting delayed.
Right.
I had a super chat come in from Daniel Skinner. Will you review Love and Monsters next Friday? I don't really know what that is. I don't know if you're the one that messaged me about it. Let me pull this up. What do we... Okay, yes. Some people have messaged me. It might have been you. I don't know. About it. It's, I guess, the... it's the Dylan O'Brien film. What do we have here? 7 years after the monster apocalypse, Joel Dawson, along with the rest of humanity, have been living underground ever since giant creatures took control of the land. After reconnecting over the radio with his high school girlfriend, who is now 80 miles away at a coastal colony, Joel begins to fall in love again. As Joel realizes that there's nothing left for him underground, he decides to go against the logic to venture to Amy, despite the dangers of monsters that stand in his way. So I haven't seen a trailer for it. I don't know too much about it. It is not a week from now, that same Friday is when the new Liam Neeson thriller comes out. I'm working on a ranking of Liam Neeson thrillers. So I'm sure that'll be a massive hit that will change the trajectory of my channel and everything. I don't know if I'll watch it. I don't know if I'll review it. Everything's kind of up in the air right now. It's kind of a weird time. How about you, Griffin? Is that one on your radar?
The Love and Monsters or
Honest Thief. Either one.
Right, yeah, both. No, I didn't even know they both existed, so this is the first I'm hearing of them.
Mark Isham scored the Liam Neeson one.
So it's probably good then.
Yes, probably is. Got a new comment come in. Sean. Once again, I'm telling you, I'm looking for your comments, and every time they come up, it just says my name. I don't understand.
No, this cannot be real. What?
James Franklin. Sean, what are your thoughts on 2001? Yeah, I've seen it. It's been a while. As I constantly say, I'm not a big Kubrick guy. He's a little bit too cerebral and metaphoric in ways that I'm just not wired that way. So same with The Shining and a lot of these other ones. They just don't resonate with me the way they do with other people. But I haven't watched it in a while, so perhaps if I watched it now, I would have a different take on it. I wouldn't expect that to happen because I have watched The Shining quite a few times, and that one is never like, oh, now I get it. Now I resonate with it the same way everybody else does. So doesn't happen for me. Ninja Cowboy 2000. Sean, what is your favorite South Park episode? I've only seen one episode of South Park. It's the episode with Christopher Reeve where he is like Christopher Pike from the episode The Menagerie of Star Trek, the original series, and he's in a wheelchair, but it's supposed to be Christopher Reeve, and he's trying to track down spinal columns to suck out the stem cells. That's the only one I've seen. Certainly laughed a lot watching it, but it was a little bit inappropriate and insensitive. So, how about you, Griffin? What's your favorite episode of South Park?
Of South Park? I don't really watch South Park, so. Also, I just never mind. It doesn't matter. Never mind.
Please tell me, how is Full House and Fuller House? I haven't seen it, not that I haven't. I have seen it, not that I haven't. What will be the thoughts? I mean, I grew up watching Full House because I'm old enough to have watched it back in the late 80s and 90s. Like everyone else, I watched it. I watched a couple of episodes of Fuller House. Ironically, it is a type of television from a different era for someone that is not a male in their late 30s. So, yeah, I don't have thoughts on it. It's a very weird way of doing comedy that I don't really know who it's for in the year 2020, because it's just kids walk in, raise their eyes really wide, the audience goes ha, 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 and they clap, and then they say something that's not funny, but it's played like a joke. Like
yeah,
not the target audience for that one. Griffin, that's your favorite TV show, Fuller House.
So I've been told. Also, I think we finally found the question that he wants answered. What are your thoughts on Gen X?
I'm assuming you are referring to the Generation X film, the X-Men spin-off TV movie that came out in the late 90s that had Matt Frewer as one of the lead characters in it.
See, I thought he was talking about the actual just like Gen X.
Oh. Let me pull this up. If you guys could see this. Generation X. They had a brief run of the comics, and then they did a TV movie out of it. And you got White Queen, Banshee, Jubilee was one of the main ones in there, and then Matt Frewer. There you have it. It's like the forgotten X-Men movie that nobody talks about, and they don't include it in their rankings. I'm sure that's what he was talking about. Or he's talking about people in the generation of Generation X, which is roughly 1960 to 1980. And what do I think about them? Well, I don't normally talk about generational theory on my channel and lumping all people born in an age range that's quite vast. I normally need a context to discuss the matter. So that is quite the question.
If you had to give some general thoughts, like let's just go there. Like, what are your thoughts on them? Do you think that they've run this country amok? Are they what's ruining this country right now?
That's the way that all of this always works. That people that are teenagers or in their 20s, they think that the previous generation caused all the problems in the world, and then they grow up and suddenly they're 50, and all of the teenagers and 20-somethings think that they're the ones that ruin the world. That's the cycle of all of this. There's actually a proverb. It's like 3,000, 4,000 years old, and it's the exact same concept of like a guy, the kids these days and their technology, and then it's just the way the world works. Yeah. That you do your best with the time you have, you make a lot of mistakes, and then the young generation have slightly different values, slightly different problems. They don't understand the context of why you did the things you did when you did them. So they fix some things, and they make some new problems for themselves. It's the way the world works.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we could finally tackle that question for you. Johnny Griff, if a movie had to be... if a movie had to be on Donald Trump, who would you believe would be the best actor to play him? I mean, you have to decide what the type of the movie is.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, if you're just doing a parody that's over the top, yeah, sure, why not get Alec Baldwin? Get
okay,
the whole
but
Saturday
even that has become impossible. He's almost become a parody of himself now, to the point where it's like you can't make fun of him. It's ridiculous.
And that's so much of the problem right now, is that he's so unique that to even know who would be able to get the right take to do whatever you wanted to do with it. I don't know who that would be. I don't know who you would cast. He's done some acting himself. He is in Home Alone 2. He is in The Little Rascals. Yeah. Maybe he would need to play himself. And I'm sure he would love to.
Right. Then we get into what's called propaganda. No. So there's also that. I'm going to be honest, though. I am really curious to see the kind of media that is made about this administration after the time is over. I think it'll just be like where do you go with it, right? You can't be obvious. It's to the point where it's you can't be obvious with it, because then people will be like, that's stupid. You got to actually really dig deep into what's going on, and I don't know. I think documentaries are ultimately going to be the more interesting pieces of content that come out of this whole thing.
Right. Well, yeah, it's an interesting time, and you have two wildly different interpretations of what's going on in the world, and it's interesting to have them collide in an era of social media where you can't even talk to each other because we can't even agree on what is reality. Anyway, I actively do not like to talk about politics on here. So moving right along. But just even, do you think every shark movie is trying to replicate the success of Jaws? No. I mean, it's kind of one of those questions is that the definitive iconic shark movie of all time? Of course it is. Is that there are only so many things you can do with sharks that are grounded in reality? What can you do with sharks that's not Jaws or Sharknado? Are you trying to do real, or are you trying to do science fiction and goofiness? It's a limited genre that seems to have a going demand of sorts to it. But I wouldn't say they're trying to replicate the success of Jaws. It's just a movie that so dominates the genre that every shark movie draws a comparison to it.
Right.
Ooh, sorry, excuse me. And we'll go for, I don't know, just a few more minutes on here. And
I like this question. Who is your favorite stunt double?
I mean, I think we have to go with our main man.
We have to go with Sam Hargrave.
We have to go with Sam Hargrave. We're best friends with him. He's
close,
my close personal
friend of the show.
Yeah. Though the video's pulled, but it's still on the audio version of the podcast. We got to interview Chris Evans' stunt double. He, somewhat with his brother, actually are America's ass, and therefore easy, obvious pick on that one. He's the director of Extraction, so we interviewed him back 6 months ago. That was really cool. And he's about my age, and we both kind of grew up watching all the same action movies. So I actually have a couple of deep regrets, as he mentioned some thoughts on Rambo 4, and I didn't follow up, and I dropped the ball. Even though he's been open to talking to us again. So
right. We have to. I actually have the email.
So,
yeah.
Fun times. Okay, here's a good one from Ola. What's your favorite 1800s movie? I'm not aware of how many movies were filmed in the 1800s. I believe there's one done in 1899, so I'll go with that one. Matthew, hey Sean, what's your best interpretation of the Joker? Do you like the best? I have a ranking of that. You can check that out. I haven't seen Lucifer, and I've only seen 12 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you check out my video of top 10 video games, you'll know my take on the Arkham games. I'm just trying to tackle some of these real quick that you guys are throwing out there that I have put stuff out on before. You guys are asking a lot of questions like, hey, are you excited for this? Are you excited for this? About stuff like I've done multiple videos on a lot of this stuff you're asking about. Like, do I watch Stranger Things? I have multiple videos on it. Like, what is my favorite video game? You asked that question right after I told you I have a video on my top 10 favorite video games. So like, I don't want to answer questions that are on stuff I've talked about many, many, many times before. Have you heard of the live-action Thomas the Train movie being developed by the director of World War Z? I have heard about it. I mean, if they're trying to do like an ironic take on it, that's kind of interesting. Seems like a terrible idea, but it's interesting in how bad of an idea it is. But I don't know what it is, and I'm almost 40, so I am not the target audience for Thomas the Train. And even my kids aren't really anymore. They don't even watch that anymore. Maybe the baby will start soon, but okay, I'm just gonna bye Ola. Sorry, Ola. I don't know what you're doing, man. Like, you just can't do what you're doing. I don't know if you're asking real questions. I don't know what it is, but bye-bye.
Was he just saying Sean?
He asked what my favorite Avengers movie from the 1900s was. And so he's not asking real questions. And so after hours and hours and hours and hours of that, bye-bye. Sorry, man. I don't know if you're being honest and the questions just aren't translating right, but you just can't keep doing what you're doing. Favorite director, Steven Spielberg. Griffin, favorite director?
Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan. I've seen a couple of his films. It's pretty good.
May have released the only movie of 2020 this year.
Can you play Last of Us? I've played some of it. I bought it. I started playing it. Started tweeting about it too. So that's happened. Do you think New Mutants will be on Disney Plus? I don't think it can be on Disney Plus until it debuts on HBO. So I think it'll be on Disney Plus in like a year and a half, but I think it has to go to HBO Max first. That's why they didn't debut it on streaming, because of an exclusivity first deal thing. So, is Griffin gone? Did I lose him? Maybe he's just sitting really, really still. Oh, even in my little deal. Is that you? Oh, I have two of you. That's fun.
Yeah, it is me.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened there. My internet was just weird for a second.
Well, the other you just disappeared and gone. All right. Try and grab just a couple on here. A couple final ones on here. I'm getting this one a lot. What are your thoughts on The Simpsons? I mean, they seem like a kind of a dysfunctional family. The dad is a bit of an idiot and disconnected, kind of selfish. The son feels out of control. So I think that they could improve with their family dynamics. So, oh, are you asking about the show? Yeah. So I've only watched a couple episodes in the last 20 years, but I watched every episode of the first 10 seasons multiple times. So it's one of those shows that I felt like, not that I aged out of, but it wasn't one that I wanted to keep up on. So.
Right. My thoughts on The Simpsons? Yeah. Do you? I don't really watch The Simpsons all that much. I've never really been into that. I mean, I watched Family Guy for a while when that was like funny. Now I just don't really watch it anymore. So,
would you ever do a ranking of the Damien Chazelle movies? Yes, I would do that. The timing was just not right whenever the Moon movie came out, so it didn't happen then. But I even started watching movies or rewatched this movies to do a ranking, and it just didn't happen. Are you excited for Scary Stories 2? No, I didn't like the first one, so I'm not very excited for the second one. How about you, Griffin? You excited for more Scary Stories?
Yeah, sure. I actually thought that the first one was pretty underrated, so I'll definitely down for more of it.
Spider Brave, will you ever do a review of Spaceballs and Monster Squad? No. I don't really do retro reviews. When I do them, nobody watches them. Everybody wants me to do more retro reviews, but they want me to review different things. So whenever I do one, it just bombs on my channel. So it does not encourage me to keep doing that. Okay, trying to find like a couple epic questions to close out on.
I actually rewatched Monster Squad a couple of days ago. That's fun. I enjoy that one.
Have you watched Sharknado? I've seen the first one. People ask me to rank them all the time. Maybe that ranking would do great. I don't know. But I don't know how to rank movies that are intentionally bad. Like, I just don't know how to do that. So I didn't. Wasn't my thing, so I didn't keep watching. Favorite movie of 2019? We have top 10 lists that kind of say all of that. All right. Little Bill, what's your favorite Robin Williams movie? Mine is Mrs. Doubtfire. Dead Poets Society. Mrs. Doubtfire's great.
Yeah, Mrs. Doubtfire is good. Yeah.
Those ones come to mind for me.
It depends on like what kind of Robin Williams performance you want to go after. Obviously, like Good Will Hunting is incredible. But like when I think of Robin Williams, just like his manic energy and just like the likability and everything, I don't know, like The Birdcage is so funny, and he's great in that. So maybe that one would be my favorite. Well, it is hard not to go with Aladdin just because of the genie, but like, yeah, I don't know. The Birdcage is really good.
All righty. On that note, I'll end on this note. Lego Beast, favorite character of all times. I don't know if you're just asking this question randomly, if you saw the poll I put up recently, but Saturday's video will be me talking about my top 10 favorite movie characters of all time. So that's coming on Saturday. Top 10 favorite movie characters of all time. I had actually answered that many times before in these, but you'll have to hold on out if you don't know the answer that I've given in there. All right, Griffin, one more time, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can head on over to the Film Speak channel, where I am not a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic. And then you can also follow me on Twitter at Griff Schiller.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. We should be back next Wednesday. Hopefully we'll be talking about something besides movie delays.
Right.
But we'll probably be talking about more movie delays or theaters closing.
Probably.
Something else that we've
Yeah.
talked about 1,000,000 times that there's nothing really to... We don't really have a take on any of it anymore. Like even as I'm closing out, any thoughts on Black Widow being pushed back? We don't really, because it's all normal now. It's so like it's not even news anymore when a movie gets delayed. Like when a block of movies gets delayed, there's something to discuss because that has ramifications to the level of Regal gets closed down. But there's just nothing even to talk about a movie getting delayed. So. Right. We'll be back next week to talk about more movie delays. Bye, everybody. Really, thank you so much for tuning in.